All right. I've been out of it for a while, so I'm still a bit rusty. Good evening, folks. Um, Thank you so much for joining us. It's a busy night for turtle lovers. We just wrapped up, or our friends at Turtle Room just wrapped up the podcast with Michael Skipstead. Always a great time. I can let that young man speak and just back and listen for hours. The amazing work he's been doing with Kelonia Cast, it's just beautiful. But this is a first for us at Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group, a launch party. We could have gone about this quietly, just posted the episodes and said, "Hey, go listen." But the work that's gone into this, um, the directors and the board, we wanted to take a moment to share our appreciation for Wendy, who made this happen, and also wanted to give our members an opportunity to understand the goal and where we are going with this. So, with that, real quick, the lady of the hour, if anybody is new here and don't know Wendy, Wendy Montroy, the host and the creator of Turtle Tea. Good evening, Wendy. Thanks for making this happen.
Yeah, it was your idea. It was a good idea. So thank you for suggesting it.
Well, talk is a lot of folks can talk, a lot of us can come up with ideas, and I've been talking about this for a year. So you made this happen in 2025, and it's no simple feat. And also with us this evening, for those who don't know, James Badman, one of the directors and board members. James, thanks for hopping on here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's very exciting. We've something that's been talked about for a while. It was great that Wendy got this project over the finish line, and if you haven't listened to it yet, you're really missing out. It was a great episode and something that fun to listen to while you're working away or doing your thing. So
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. So
Yeah. And of course, through the day, or actually ever since you announced this, Wendy, 2 releases a month, I'm like, okay, they say the hardest part of any project is getting started, and you've
Yep.
done the hard work. But the thing is, we are now stepping into the harder part of it, which is keeping up, and especially listening
Yes.
into Anthony go about it at the podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, yes,
I know. I
So
felt a little attacked. I was like, oh no.
I'm sure he meant it with love and nothing but
I
love.
know.
But that's part of what we wanted to share with our viewers today, and also ask for help on making
Yes.
this a reality. So let's dive in. Why turtle tea?
So it's actually that's like the second or third name that I came up for. I look back in our history, Michael, and you and I have been talking about this since last December. You had the whole idea for doing species interviews, and I've kind of always wanted to do a podcast. And I'll say, Colonia Cast and Turtle Room were big inspirations for that. Um, I love Colonia Cast. It's very scientific. I learn a ton, but there's a little bit of a niche that's missing in podcast, in that there's not a lot of captive care information. So my hopes with this is that we can cover species, cover captive care, cover breeding. And like our first episode on Tabasco mud turtles is a perfect example of, I didn't know about Tabasco mud turtles, and they're incredibly cool. So us just talking about them might get someone else really excited about them. And I feel like there's so many species out there that are really, really cool that people just don't know about. So, you know, I guess turtle tea because, spilling the tea a little bit. I
I
wanted
like
them to
that.
not I wanted them to not be super long, like maybe 20 to 30 minutes an episode, so something you could have over tea, kind of like a chat with turtle keepers. And I don't know, it just kind of fits. It rolls off the tongue well.
Awesome, awesome. And of course, the first review, if I can call it that, and just for the record, I have not had a chance to talk to Wendy today. She's had an incredibly busy day, and she started a new job and training, a lot going on, so we haven't had a chance to connect. So I'm gonna go to James for the first review, if I can put him on the hot seat.
Sure. So what I found interesting, it was a great blend between you know the natural history as well as providing um, some good tips for keeping them, maintaining them in captivity and stuff. And when I was listening to it, Michael, Wendy, you're a great host, great questions. I really thought you did a good job keeping it rolling. Michael, what I was very impressed about was you had so much information, on their natural history. I was, a lot of times, it's like, oh, I want to get into, name the species, Pyxis, Tabasco mud. They're pretty, we know nothing about them. We don't, it's just simply they're, a pretty turtle, tortoise, whatever. And so to hear a lot about the natural history, um, I always love you'll ask someone, where's this turtle from? Where's this tortoise from? And it's like South America, Africa. You're talking about vast continents, that go from rainforest to dry desert, giving such, using such broad strokes, doesn't paint a picture about the animal, where it's from and stuff like that. And I really thought you guys did a great job capturing that. You gave, details from where they're from, the type of landscape you would find them, and then you dove into captive husbandry, and I appreciate that, while the whole time giving some you could read your personalities, which I always enjoy too, because I feel like at the same time, if I didn't know Michael, I was getting to know him by the questions Wendy was asking. So I look forward to hearing future ones, because if we approach individuals that I may not know, or you don't know well, uh, you're getting a glimpse of them and their personality too, because while a lot of us aren't super talkative people, I think a lot of times I would always tell my bosses at ASU, animal people are introverts. That's why we work with animals, but get us talking about the animals, and then you get to see the personality. And I really felt like I saw that today. I was like, I could get a hint of excitement as you were talking, Michael, and again, I really thought Wendy brought it out, and it was just a great complement of characters, and I enjoyed the podcast. So that's my review. So
Awesome. Well, and
Thank
that
you.
last part, I had not thought about it, but that's very true as well, I guess. Yeah. Sorry, Wendy. I should let you respond to James real quick.
No, that's fantastic. It's kind of my goal in doing this. Basically, I've been kicking around the idea for it for almost a year. Michael and I have been going back and forth. It's something that does take a lot of time. So when I was laid off, my last day of work was August 29th. I was going to kind of sit and be sad for a while. Instead, I was like, I'm going to do this podcast and I'm going to get it out while I'm looking for a job. So I took the extra time I had. I learned how to mix audio, how to, record separate audio streams, all this stuff that I have no background in this. So, yeah, it ended up coming together and it turned out pretty good. We had talked about doing video, and I know video is more popular than audio, but at this point, I think audio is what I can keep up with. If I have to edit audio and video, I'm not sure I'll be able to get 2 out a month. But maybe eventually we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Well, and
yeah,
that's
if I
that's.
if I had to
Oh, sorry,
offer a
go on, James.
suggestion, I would say putting a picture of the turtle up, or the tortoise up, or maybe a picture in the teacup. Because admittedly, I mean, most people I know, I'm not a water turtle guy. I enjoy water turtles, but I'm not really a water turtle guy. I had to look them up. I mean, you guys were talking about how or Michael, you mentioned how striking they were. I'm not sure your exact words, but about how beautiful they were. I honestly had to look them up, and because I'm like, I kind of think of them, but whenever I think mud turtle, I think brown turtle. So I thought, I got to look them up, and so it did. It at least got me into reading, and then once you pick up a book, you just can't put it down. And so I was flipping through, but Anthony and Russ's book is always good when you need a quick reference on a species. So, anyways, even if you can't do a video, maybe a nice picture of him, but it was yes, the comment is correct, and it's great. If I was trying to do something at the time, so it was a great thing to listen to an audio while you were working and stuff. So it complemented what I was trying to do today. But yeah, to be able to see the picture would have been good too. So.
And for those of you listening, again, any thoughts or feedback you have, please share in the comment. That's one of the reason we wanted to do this. And of course, where to find us. That's a great feedback. And to Wendy's point, and I always tell Wendy, don't it's always okay to scale back. So originally the YouTube version was gonna include pictures of the turtle, the setups and everything, so people get an idea. Some people are visual. Now that's not dead. Um, what this is an opportunity for somebody else to volunteer, help us make that part of it happen. So hey, a new possibility, new opportunity for anybody who wants to really get involved. But at a minimum, up until
That
we
is
get
not
to.
me, Michael, because I am the worst photographer, and everyone can
I
vouch
just
for
heard you
that.
got retired. Come on.
No, that's a Cameron job. I watch everyone do, we call it the Cameron style of pictures on Facebook now of turtles and stuff, but that's a Cameron job. That's not a James job. So,
Okay, I will ask Cameron definitely. And I know, yeah, I think Jason just chimed in, and I understand Tara's great with media and audiovisual stuff. So yeah, collaboration in the making somewhere down the road. But yeah, that's great feedback. Up until that point, we can either make a library with pictures, provide a link in the video or something like that. We'll come up with something. For the folks. Um, James, I know you are not going to stay on for the entire duration, so just in case you're thinking of dropping off real quick, when can Wendy have you as a guest to talk about a species that you focus on heavily and do a great job? Um, consider it an
yeah,
invitation,
yeah,
request, however it works.
we'll look at December. We'll pick a species and we'll look at December. I think that would be fun. It would be a good time. And
Awesome.
um, with the editing capability, I know she'll make us all look good, right?
You would not believe the amount of ums I had to take out of mine.
you,
Oh.
I probably will challenge you on that one. So that's my thing
It's getting
too.
to the
So
point where I can look at the waveform and I can see and be like, well, there's an there's an there's an
that's good. Well, you'll keep us all looking good though. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna lie. I did hop on YouTube this morning to see how did I look, but you made me sound great. So we'll talk a little bit about your process and how you process the audio a little bit. Um, yeah, leave the ums. Yeah, and there I go. So geez, I wanted to take a quick minute to give you my review if I can. Okay.
Please.
Now I've been in this journey very close with you, but I still, wanted to. I mean, probably one of the very first people who went and wanted to check out how it turned out because I just know what you did, how much you had to do to get this happen. And I didn't tell this to you before because I wanted to kind of, again, like I said, have this whole thing roll out before I shared. But when you asked me to sit down with you and you shared your notes, it's almost my first thought was, well, she's got everything covered. You've done your research. You've gone and looked into the species. You didn't say, okay, I got a guy coming to talk about it. I'll just let him answer everything. No, you had gone and gathered the facts. You gathered the data, and the beauty with that is if you get something wrong, you have an opportunity to not just publish it as it is. Instead, you can prod, and the amount of work that went into that, whether you leaned on an AI assistant or whatever it is, I love that. you didn't just show up saying, okay, I'll just go with it, and the quality, that the impact of that work on quality, it's going to be tremendous. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. And of course, yeah, I was like, she can just answer, make a video, everything, and just ask me for pictures or ask our guests for pictures and plug it in. It can be a full-on Wendy show. But the fact you
But
brought on a guest,
that's the whole thing. It's not supposed to be the Wendy show. It's the TTPG species show. And I did all the research beforehand just because I know not everyone that comes on that keeps an animal is going to know their exact range or when they estivate in the wild and all that kind of stuff. So I figured getting in the habit, and I actually didn't use AI for that because I find, especially if you're looking at species stuff, AI tends to make stuff up. And one of the points of this podcast is to get good care info out there. We're starting to really fight against the AI slop. And the more of that that's out there, we need care information from people who know about these animals and who actually keep them. Because I'm sure if you Google, how do I keep a sulcata, the AI will tell you, oh, yeah, feed them apples. Like, that's great. There's just so much crap out there that I'm hoping we're fighting against it a little bit.
yeah, and again, and I'll let you kind of lay this out for our guests. The idea isn't a once and done, like just presenting one perspective. So, to kind of touch on that, what are your goals with the Turtle Tea project? And second part, of course, like we already talked about, it takes a lot of work, and we can use all the help. And we don't, like you said, you don't want this to be just Wendy presenting. So how
Right.
can members help with your goals?
Volunteering to interview. I have kind of a document that everything that we'll go over. You can let me know if you've got it covered. Just as a little preview, I'm going to be talking to Ralph. And I know when I talk to Ralph, I don't have to look up the range for Egyptian tortoises. I don't have to look up whether they're ESA or IUCN listed. He's going to know all of that. So my work for that one will be much less. But also, if you have and keep species that you're passionate about, that you want more people to be excited about, please contact me and we'll get together. I also think the fact that, I do have the video, but I'm not using them right now. So it's all audio. It takes a little bit of the pressure off people who might be nervous about it's not live. I mean, Michael, you and I screwed up and had to start over at one point, and, you just edited that out. So
And if I can quickly point out, because it's funny, it's trivial but funny, because I was thinking of that today. I'm like, you know what? We had to do a retake only once, or maybe twice,
yep.
I think, at the most. Which I can,
Yeah.
for again, kudos to you for all the groundwork, the way you laid out the questions. It made that happen. Again, we were doing this for the very first time. I didn't
Yep.
come with written answers or anything, but again, part of that is also the familiarity and the confidence in what we were sharing. James, you mentioned the data that we shared, and I mentioned this even in the episode itself. A lot of what I learned about the species, I mean, with the specifics, comes from the Turtles of Mexico book. That one, again, for those who are interested, it's just amazing book to have in your library. And of course, a lot of like you were saying, Anthony and Russ have covered a lot of those details in their book as well. And we just were hearing of Michael Skipster talk about a new book that's coming out next year. Christmas is around the corner. Again, for those who have heard of that book, please put it on your list. And Russ's book and Anthony's book, if you don't have a copy, please put it on the wish list. But yeah, that, I mean, just again for us doing this for the first time, for you coordinating and making this happen for the first time, to have only one retake, that was incredible. And I think even that I asked for it because I wanted to word it out, or describe it better. So kudos.
Well, there's a reason that I picked you to be my first guest, because I knew that, we're so comfortable that like we could get through this and I wouldn't, before I talk to someone that I don't know as well, I figured, you and I would be able to kind of iron out the kinks in those first episodes.
Yeah. And I also have to give kudos. Again, the only reason I'm the first guest on the first episode is because of what you said. We first started with actually crassicolas. For those who
Mhm.
know me, that's one of my very favorite species. But, I wanted somebody who was actually doing incredibly well with to present it. So Wendy and I agreed on that gonna be some. Wendy can say the name if she wants, but otherwise we will save it as a mystery. Um, and that's, I think, that's the goal that Wendy is setting and driving. We just don't want anybody who's hashed a couple of something, but instead someone who's done extremely well, but more importantly, done right by the animal.
Mhm.
Which again, even with Acudum, I could think of a couple of names. We just couldn't get them, and more importantly, she wanted a guinea pig. So here I am.
And I
um,
do want to mention to everyone watching that Michael and I did not plan this. We actually not only wore the same shirt today,
this,
we both bought the exact same color. So
yeah.
completely unplanned.
I might have to start giving Wendy a frequent buyer card from our bonfire store, James. I don't know how many t-shirts she has now. But of course, this one again, thanks to Wendy, this is not a TTPG design or under the TTPG store. She launched this and then she realized she could roll it into a fundraiser for TTPG. Truly thankful. Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
making that. Um, if I can also ask you about the species that you're targeting, are you looking at exotics, the rare species, or what is in the mix for turtle tea?
I think it's all of them. Any species that you're passionate about, we'll talk about. It doesn't matter whether it's something incredibly common or incredibly rare. Um, I kind of like your thought, Michael, where they all need to be bred and kept and cared for, and it really doesn't matter whether it's a $10 turtle or a $4,000 turtle. Like they all matter. So.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, we're talking. Of course, I recommended Dennis Urig's name. I mean, the man has a slider named
Mhm.
after him. So we're talking about making episodes about sliders as well. I mean, anybody who wants to come talk about sliders, please do. Again, because that's like an entry level, a gateway to for so many people. Sulcatas and sliders are gateway to where we are now. I started with two sliders presumably smuggled into India, but here we are. And we still have so much misinformation, like you were pointing out, Wendy. So we, to your point, I'm glad that you are going to be talking about sliders as well, so that those who are looking for help with it. I got a question the other day. Somebody said, "Oh, I want a small turtle." And then they said, "Well, will this turtle bite my kid?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's got a mouth. It can bite." Aquatic turtles, especially, their first line of defense is to try to bite. It's not going to hurt you. You're probably not going to bleed, but yes, it can bite. And so I suggested tortoises. And then the response was, "Oh, I don't want tortoises because I don't want heat lamp." I'm like, "Well, the
Wait.
aquatic turtle will need a heat lamp." They're like, "Oh, what turtle doesn't need a heat lamp?" I didn't send them a note about a link to a stuffed toy or stuffed toy or a dead turtle is what's not going to need, but highlights the need again. So much information, misinformation, or people thinking, "Oh, well, my cousin kept it, yeah, but for how long?" So I'm glad you're doing this against sliders, common musk, anything, and I think we talked about the pet peeve of calling something common as well. I kind of hate that.
Yeah. And I was going
Go
to
on.
say, if we, get into some of those common species, we can talk about, should they be bred in the numbers that they are? So that's
Yeah,
definitely something we can touch on.
yeah. Um, what went into making this episode a reality, like getting it published from recording, the work you put in prior to sitting down? And or actually, if you can give us a glimpse into even the kind of questions you came up with, how much retakes or revisions did those go through?
Um, I mean, literally since December, I've had a Google Doc and I've changed it a million times. Like, and at one point, you sent me over like a whole list of things that you were sending out to people for the species interviews when you were putting feelers out for that. So I incorporated a lot of your questions from that and just kind of boiled it down until it was something that made sense. And I'm going to try and keep the same format. The way I have it set up is to make life easier for me, where I can sit down and talk to somebody for an hour, and that's 2 episodes. So we do like an intro and an outro 2 different times while we're sitting, and we'll do the natural history and captive care, and then breeding and hatchling care as separate episodes. And, my hopes that, it's not just going to be, well, we've done Tabasco med turtles, so we're done with them, because everyone keeps them differently. And
Right.
you in California would keep them very differently than someone in Florida. So just because we've done a species doesn't mean that it's off the list. Like, I feel like we can talk to multiple people.
Absolutely. And that was actually, Ralph, I don't know if he's still online. That was one of his thoughts and ideas when we actually started Meet a Member. I think I shared with you. He's like, hey, it would be awesome to do like, oh, how is so and so keeping pancake tortoises in Florida versus in California, to your point. And of course, husbandry practices have all changed. So, you can bring back an updated version a couple of years down the road. So much
Mhm.
possibly. I'm so excited. And of course, my biggest hope is like you will continue to have this enthusiasm and excitement to keep pumping these out or publishing these out. Um, of course, let us know how we can help. And I'm looking forward to the next new species episode. I can't wait to see who we have sat down and made one. And of course, for those who are listening, it's a mystery to me as well. I want to listen in with all of you and be excited for it just as you are. Hopefully, you're excited. Again, if you listened in, if you have any feedback, any suggestions, please drop us a note here or email Wendy. Um, her email should be up and running here in the next day or two. I just haven't gotten to it, but we will have Wendy at ttpg.org up. If anybody wants to volunteer to be a guest with Wendy, drop her a note with what species you're really excited about, passionate about, and want to talk about, and we would love to have you. Wendy, any quick notes before we kind of wrap this up? I told Wendy I won't keep it up for two. Like this is something we kind of decided last minute because, like I said, the board, the directors, and I wanted to tell you how very appreciative we are of the effort, your commitment to TTPG, your support. It means a lot. A lot of what we are doing, seeing today, happening in the TTPG realm. You have a big part to play. You've brought in a lot of members who have been inactive. You've helped us bring them back, engaged, and we can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you giving me a platform for my excessive energy and hyper focus. I'm sure my husband and son, if they hear the word podcast one more time, they are going to throw up. So someone said, "Can we talk about leopard tortoises?" Absolutely. We need
Yeah.
we need to talk about all of them, basically. So uh,
It,
just
it,
reach out to me, and we will get something set up.
yeah, I think you called it your goal is wanting to build a digital library, right? Did I understand that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome.
So someone asked if we could post the upcoming species on social media. This is actually something Michael and I talked about. We've considered, after the podcast releases, setting up a live event so that we could do like a Q&A. But gathering questions beforehand is a really good idea too, because then they can be part of the podcast itself.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, the Q&A, we're hoping, again, sometimes we're talking, it makes sense, but it's possible the way we are explaining something, describing something, doesn't make sense to the person who's
Mm-hmm.
listening in. the Q&A. And of course, well, Spotify, I don't know if it provides an opportunity for people who are listening in to type in a question. YouTube, I know, does. We will do our best to keep monitoring those channels, those episode comments, and responding there. We'll invite the guests to respond. But we figured a Q&A is, again, probably a much more manageable format, and gives us an opportunity to spend some time with you also. It's a win-win.
Yeah,
James?
and I would
Oh,
say real
go.
quick, if you can if your podcast provider lets you leave reviews or comments or a rating of any kind, that would help. I'm trying to watch all the providers for comments, and we'll answer them if you post them. But doing stuff like, following the podcast, leaving a review or leaving a comment helps other people find it. So that would be great.
Yeah. James, do you have any thoughts before we drop off?
No, just wanted to thank both of you as well. I mean, this was a tremendous effort, and it's something that we really appreciate. It's something that helps TTPG advance in the social media field that I think most of us on the board, it's just not our thing. So, being able to partner and work with those that find joy in doing it, I think is big. And um, commenting on something that you touched on a minute ago on the building a video library and stuff. I mean, that's something that we've longed for a long time, and to be able to do that and on many species would be phenomenal. This is all really great work. So and in the end will help the animals in captivity, and that's a big part of our mission. So again, thanks, kudos to both of you. You did a phenomenal job on this first episode, and really enjoyed listening to it today.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed. I know you're dabbling a little bit with aquatics, James. Tabasco mud turtles don't take a lot of space, so give them some thought.
Hey, I'm enjoying my my little golden thread turtles, and they've got phenomenal personalities. And Wendy, I look forward to the podcast on golden threads. Maybe I'll learn some more information on them. But they're out in my ponds right now, and yeah, having a good time out there. So
I'm not gonna lie, I was pleasantly surprised when you said yes, but I'm glad you also said yes. They're one of my favorites. For those who have followed me, I'll shamelessly admit this. I keep holding back hatchlings because they're so gorgeous. I'm like, and they don't stay small, females especially. They're massive. So after a year or so, I do let them go. But yeah, that species is definitely a
I
kryptonite
know
as
why they're
well.
your favorite. I mean, it's like an aquatic Russian tortoise. I mean, they follow you around in the waterland, begging, and they're little babies, and I'm like, they great personalities. So I don't know. I'm having fun with them. I wanted something for my kind of stir up the vegetation in my ponds, and they definitely are doing a little bit of that. But um, you know, I'm enjoying them. So yes, maybe you're going to win me over to the water turtle side, but water is very much a commodity in Arizona. So you got to be pretty
I
water.
know.
So
Just a quick note, Wendy, in case I forget, not that if when we make a episode on Chinese striped neck turtles or golden thread turtles, I'm sure I'll mention this to you. Kurt Edwards and Paul V are the two gentlemen who do justice to that species in taking pictures of capturing the beauty of those animals that they hatch. I'm terrible, but Kurt, he posted pictures so much. Actually, I ended up picking up a few, although I told him to specifically incubate them for males. But he takes incredible pictures of that species. But thank you so much again, everyone. This was a fun little live event. We wanted again to take a moment to share our appreciation for Wendy live with all of you. I wanted her to have an opportunity to listen to your feedback, and um, we hope your support for the podcast for this podcast will continue. Um, and I'm looking forward to the future. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a lovely
Yeah.
evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.